Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream on a Thursday in the month of January, and we're headed to we're in the last month of January. Last Thursday of January. And we have Omar out, and we have Taimur in. Taimur is in, taking his debut, and he's on his debut, and we're a bit late today. But Taimur is under center today, right? It's an American term. Non-Americans won't get that. They don't understand what that means. But how crazy is this, how insane is this crash, right? Let's read a little bit about that. It's not like affairs of the Ummah, but it is pretty weird, because if you're a Black Hawk, if you're flying a Black Hawk helicopter, then you are really good at flying helicopters, right? You're like in the NFL of driving helicopters. So how it is exactly did you miss seeing this plane? And that's where all the conspiracy theories are going to start. But if you're in England, I'm sure you heard about this too. So a passenger jet and a Black Hawk helicopter collided in the middle of the air, and they crashed down into the river. So the Reagan International Airport in Washington, D.C., the takeoff of the plane, the tarmac, the runway basically, literally is at the edge of the Potomac River. And so anything that takes off, like right away, it's be over the river. And then this Army helicopter, okay, H-60 Sikorsky, just smashed right into the side of it. Yeah, it's very suspicious. Let's just look at it from a common sense standpoint. When you're flying a military Black Hawk helicopter, you are in the professionals. You are a professional. You're in the NFL of flying choppers, right? You know exactly that you're in an area that has passenger flights. Okay? How are you hitting another plane? Right? All of us were looking from 10,000, 5,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 30,000 feet. We see a plane. You're up right there. How did you miss it? Shay Ajib. Okay. This definitely deserves a Shay Ajib. Hey, Timur, put your mic on. What are your thoughts on this? Yes, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. SubhanAllah. Well, the whole Russian skating team is shaken up, beyond shaken up, devastated, because they lost a lot of skaters. You know, they're huge in figure skating. They're the best in the world, right? It's a clear night. I don't know. I mean, well, definitely the conspiracies are going to move. Hey, could you move one of those tabs over so I could see what the YouTube screen looks like? Yeah, move that one over so I could see. No, over so I could see it. Yeah. Or no, other side so I could see the comments too. "27 people have been killed. Have been recovered so far. Sorry. Have been recovered. There are no survivors in this thing. You know that? Terrible. And this is coming from Wichita, Kansas to D.C. And the figure skaters were 6 in total. They were all among the victims, all killed. Namov and Shishkova, husband and wife figure skaters who won the 94 Olympics, were the coaches now. And they had a son, Maxim Normanov, who is a competitive skater. And the Kremlin has released, confirmed that they have passed away. And then there was Asra Hussein Raza. She had recently relocated to D.C. for a consulting position and was traveling home from a work trip. So I guess this was going to Wichita, Kansas. Her father, Hashim Raza, informed CBS. She's a graduate of the University of Indiana and Columbia University. May Allah have mercy upon her. 4 members of Maryland-based labor unions passed away, were killed. And so let's take a look at some of the other things that people are saying about this insanity. Check this out. All right, so let's go to Max Blumenthal, famous journalist. He says that the VH-60 Black Hawk military helicopter blindsided the AA flight, seeing reports everywhere that its transponder was off as it headed into a heavy flight path. This is completely outrageous. And you can see the footage. Have you seen the footage of it? Yeah, you basically just see a bunch of planes flying, and then you see the explosion. Because there's a lot of planes moving at the same time. The airport's right there. And then you see, oh, wow. What footage is this? Insane. You literally just see a little light flying into a big light and smashing it. The military aircraft was not broadcasting ADS-B. It was not broadcast. All of this is gonna feed into the different theories. These are all pieces of evidence that are gonna feed into different theories. It was not in contact with the tower. If this happened in Russia, people would call it a political assassination. The army says it was a training flight. Wait, you're going to train people in the middle of the night with passenger helicopters?
Oh, it was a passenger helicopter?
No, sorry, passenger planes? Let's take a look at this other. The Black Hawk had actually flew into near other planes too. So first it had a near crash, and then it swooped around. It had a second near crash, and then it swooped again, and it finally hit on the third try. Okay. The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. Yeah, so I'm confused. Was it going to Wichita? That's irrelevant, I guess. The helicopter was going in a straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It was a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. The helicopter, why didn't the helicopter go up, down? This is Trump, by the way. Or turn. Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. So this is suspicious. At the very least, very suspicious. Because, as I said earlier, could you imagine a NASCAR race driver? Right? When you're flying a military Black Hawk jet, or helicopter, you are a NASCAR driver of helicopters. You're that good at flying helicopters. So tell me exactly how we're supposed to believe the guy, boom, oh, I didn't see a plane which is this big. And yeah, that airspace you avoided in the beginning with. Secondly, how much airspace is below you and above you? It's not like, oh, I got stuck between 4 different planes. No, above you and below you. Right?
We need to see who's on that plane, like for real.
Yeah, someone on that helicopter is definitely, yeah,
Somebody.
definitely, no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. I wonder if who was on the helicopter? That's the question. Why don't you look that up and see who was in the helicopter when it crashed?
The helicopter or the plane?
The chopper. Anyway, let's get to our tafsir. What are you going to do? And it's just more fodder for conspiracy theories, and that's going to be in it's going to be all conspiracy. Then in about 6 months, there's going to be a Netflix thingy on the conspiracy, and you're just never going to know the truth. That's how it is in this world that we live in. When you get somebody, when you find information that's unique and interesting, let us know. It's not like we're going to break the news here, but it is an interesting discussion. I mean, it's very far off to believe that they just accidentally crashed. Let's go to, again, Surah Luqman. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And let's move to the, as they say, the times to the eternals. The times, contemporary worldly news, to the eternals, which is the tafsir. So, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ, a good son. What are the ingredients of a good son? Number one, he said it's tawheed. And tawheed, to make clear, certain terms are universal catch. They catch all the meanings. So tawheed does not just mean to believe in one God. It implies also nubuwah, prophethood. Someone who was just asking about the difference between kufr and shirk. So linguistically, just in language, shirk is to share something, to associate something. So we can have a company, I have 50%, you have 50%. So that's a sharika. So the root there has to do with sharing. And kufr has to do with covering up. So that's the linguistic meaning. In theology, al-kufr has to do with rejecting something that is necessary for us to believe. And shirk has to do with adding something that is solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A deity that exists, or an attribute that is solely belongs to Allah ta'ala, and you attribute it to somebody else. So, but when these words are used by themselves, then they mean all forms of kufr. If someone says shirk, it means all forms of kufr. Someone says kufr, it includes everything. Okay. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Quran, Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bih, wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha. Allah does not forgive shirk. So does that mean he forgives kufr? No. In this case, it means all forms of disbelief in Allah and in the Prophet, because someone may ask a fair question. Iblis does not deny the existence of Allah, and he does not worship another God. So the answer to that is, that shirk and kufr here, it includes the rejection of prophethood. Right? That's what it is. The rejection of nubuwah. Right? And that's part of it. So you could say, okay, I believe in Allah, I believe in the Prophet, but I don't believe in the Day of Judgment. No, not acceptable. So you have to believe in everything that Allah brought to us in the Quran and in His Hadith, in general. All right? Meaning, or I shouldn't say in general, because that's not what it is. It's actually for your Islam to be sound, everything that Allah and His Messenger revealed that have come down to us through tawatur, undoubted transmission, and anything that Allah and His Messenger brought to us that has reached us through non-mutawatir sound chains, in that case, that formulates Ahl Sunnah, the proper and correct belief. So you can be a Muslim with wrong beliefs, and right, if you reject those. So Iblis is also a kafir for rejecting the Prophet. And his rejection is Adam and all of the prophets after that. He has kafir with all the prophets. Someone believes in all the prophets like the Bani Israel, except the last one that they received, Isa bin Maryam, kafir as well. So the words kufr and shirk refer to everything that would remove you outside of Islam. So that's the meaning of la tushrik billah. La tushrik billah, don't make shirk so I can make kufr. Of course not. So shirk here includes every form of disbelief. After Iman is sound, how do you strengthen that Iman, and how do you, in fact, bring it into fruition? Is with salah. So this is why the second thing that he says here is salah. And salah, you cannot take it lightly. Like, there are ways, right? There are ways in which salah can be made easy. And the way that salah is made easy is you realize how much you have to gain from salah. After every salah, there's a gift. You pray properly, you get a gift. And that gift is you get to put your hands up, and what you ask for, Allah Ta'ala grants it for you. لَكَ دَعْوَ مَسْمُوعَ أَيُّ الدُّعَاءِ أَسْمَعَ. Which dua is heard most? Prophet ﷺ said, Dubura as-salawat al-maktubat. And therefore, if your salah is done in jama'ah, it's better. If it's done in the masjid, it's better. If it's done in jama'ah in the masjid, when the imam prays, it's better. Dua be stronger. If your ikhlas and khushu' was stronger, and if your wudu was better. Wudu is oftentimes the herald of how your salah will be. If a wudu is done sloppily, with no paying attention, many people, they maybe have never been taught this. Wudu should be done with the thought that my sins are being removed. The sins I did with my hand, I'm being purified. And wudu should be done, it is a ibadah by itself. It should be done as an act of ibadah. And keep in mind, as you make your wudu, is as your salah will be. Sloppiness, rushing, wasting water, dirtiness, that salah will maybe be affected by the state of your heart. You enter into something sloppy and rushing, you're not going to have good results. But you enter into salah having done a yuhsin al-wudu. Prophet ﷺ said, yuhsin al-wudu. Make a good wudu. Slow. Not use a lot of water. Don't waste. Don't splash it around, because that's part of waste. Prophet ﷺ said, if you're at the tip of the ocean, don't waste the water. It's an ethic. Wasting is an ethic. It's not an actual waste that's happening, because you can't waste water at the tip of the ocean. You physically cannot even waste it, right? But so the Prophet said that to show that it's an ethic. And then you enter into your salah, if you could. So there's a lot of factors to make the salah better. This is the most important speech, you know that, subhanAllah. The kalam, meaning talk about salah, is the most important discussion. Because Sayyidina Umar said, whoever loses or wastes or is sloppy in his salah, فَكَانَ لِمَا سِوَاهَا أَضْيَعُ. He will be more wasteful in everything else. If you lose your salah in anything else, you'll be worse. Sayyidina Umar used to fire governors he hired if he saw they're sloppy in salah. They don't come on time. They don't show up. This is the most important subject matter. And people, they like to do something that they have something to gain from. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, multiple times throughout the whole salah, all of it is for us. And in one hadith, half of it is for Allah and half is for you. Meaning, like, everything is for your... After everything that you do, you get yourself a dua. Let's take it from the top. From the adhan, the dua after adhan is masmu'. The dua after adhan is heard. Any dua between adhan and iqamah is heard. Then the iqamah, then Fatiha. And here the Prophet ﷺ narrates hadith Qudsi, قسمت الصلاة بيني وبين عبدي. I split the whole salah between me and my abd. And here Allah uses the word salah to intend Fatiha. He says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Malik Yawm Ad-Din. These are praises of Allah. Then your commitment to worship, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. This is, now you get what you asked for. So after Fatiha, just reciting Fatiha, and if it's an imam listening to Fatiha, you have earned yourself the right to ask your creator. Because what is the bond between and the relationship between creator and creation? Creator is worthy of worship, and creation has the right to ask his creator for his bounty. That's our relationship. That's our relationship. And then he said, you're nearest to your Lord in sujood, and if you have a need from your Lord, take it to the sajda, because it was very likely to be answered. So we talked about after adhan, between adhan and iqamah, after Fatiha, in sujood, and then dubur as-salawat al-maktubat, at the end of the obligatory prayer. What does that mean? Does it mean before salam, or at the end of the prayer inside the prayer, or at the end of the prayer after the prayer? And so the ulama said, well, linguistically, both could apply. So therefore they said both. If the imam elongates the tashahhud and you're finished, then you make your own personal dua. And if you finish salah completely after the salam, then you make your dua. So the entire process from adhan to salam is a small piece of ibadah, then you get a prayer for yourself. Another small piece of ibadah, then a prayer. It's 50-50. For the entire time, the whole thing. So person should make their salah excellent. If you want your dua answered, look at Sayyidina Zakariyya. When did he get his ijabah? فَنَادَتْهُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَهُوَ قَائِمٌ فِي الْمِحْرَابِ. The angels called onto him while he is standing in the mihrab. Standing in the mihrab. Subhanallah. When we make dua in sajda, according to Maliki madhab, it can be in any language, and it can be in your heart too. Allah knows what's in your heart.
Even in the third salah, we can make dua in English?
Not the Hanafites. Yeah, not the Hanafites. Right? Take the Maliki rukhsa. I honestly find it shay ajib to deny the ability to make dua in the fard, because the fard is the greatest salah. Allah loves the fard more than he loves the nafl. You feel then at that point, you may feel, oh, let me get the fard over with so I can make dua. That's what many people may say to themselves. But nonetheless, we have to respect the opinion. That's the Hanafi opinion. There's limits on the language and the content of the dua in the Hanafi school. Tafaddal. Is your mic on? Yeah.
My question is that if you were making up salah from years that you have not prayed, and let's say you decide to make your quota for the day, you make it up during the Hajj, the obligatory prayers that you missed.
Yes.
You make it up during the Hajj time. Right? Do you still get the reward for the Hajj as the reward of the Hajj is?
Inshallah you do. Inshallah, that's going to be for sure a greater reward, no doubt about that. Okay? No doubt about that. What is the ruling in the Shafi'i method? No, I never heard that the Shafi'iyya disallowed dua of worldly things. So the issue with the Ahnaf is dua it's in Arabic, number one, but number two, you do not ask what you could ask a human. So you ask only what you can ask Allah Ta'ala. And we'll let the Hanafis take over the explanation of that. I don't think the Shafi'iyya have that last part, but I won't speak on their behalf. So, as-salah, by learning how much you have to gain, you will love it. I love myself, and we're all selfish, all of us. Very few of us have reached the point I have pure love. And that's it. No, we're all selfish. We all want something. We're all afraid of something. We need protection from something. Salah is your outlet. The whole thing. And that's why those who know, they don't seek out the prayer or the iqamah, they seek out the adhan. And they want to attend the adhan. Because once you attend the adhan, and you're right there, and you repeat after the muadhin, except for hayya ala salah and falah, you say la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, and then you recite salah on the Messenger, peace be upon him, as he commanded us to after the adhan, and then you recite the dua of Allahumma rabba hadhihi ad-da'wati at-tamma wa salat al-qa'imah. At that point, the doors are open for you, for the heavens. It's like you've typed in the Wi-Fi password, and now I could type what I want. The same thing. You unlock the phone by mere virtue of I hit some buttons on a glass case. Now I could do stuff, but if I click one side button, I can't do anything. Well, who made those rules? That's just how Allah created things, and we discovered them like that, and we made inventions like that. Well, Allah Ta'ala also has His sunan, His ways. If you have wudu, you listen to the adhan, you follow the adhan, you recite this prayer, you recite this prayer. It's no different than hitting passcode on a button on a phone. You've opened the passcode. Now the doors of heaven are open for you. Now you make your dua. And anyone who comes behind you at that point, and hey, he did all the work, yes, but I'll sneak in with him and put my hand with your hand and make my dua next to you. They'll be answered too. It's like we used to do this when we were young. If the ambulance was going to the hospital, you put your blinkers on and you drive behind the ambulance, right? And they don't got time to worry about you. And you're skipping and everyone's, oh, wow, watch, let this guy out. He must be with them in the ambulance, right? People do that stuff, right? Well, there is a little bit of that in the Deen as well. Why are Khatm of Quran special? The person who does the Khatm receives 70,000 malaika saying Ameen to his prayer. So people attend the Khatm. They may not have recited anything, and they ask me, okay, I didn't recite the whole Quran, so why should I attend the Khatm? He says, because there's 78,000 angels are there. You can thank that person who did the Khatm, and yours will come. And what's the proof of that? It's Sayyidina Ibn Mas'ud. He used to recite the whole Quran, and then right when he got to the last few surahs, he would wait. Then he would gather a whole family and recite the last few surahs and make a long dua, and everyone will make their dua because now they're part of that gathering. They're part of it. And their dua will go up with them. What's the difference? The difference is he's at an elevated rank. The one who actually did the work is the one that they owe the gratitude to, when he doesn't owe them anything, right? They owe him gratitude. Because of your efforts, the doors of the heavens opened. So when you look at salah in that fashion, in that approach, everything I want is going to be found in salah. And that essentially summarizes the relationship between creator and creation. Creator makes you. What do you owe him? Worship. And what privilege do you get as being his creation? I ask him what I want. Shaykh Rajab al-Dib used to always say in his classes in Syria, may Allah have mercy upon him and grant him Jannat al-Firdaus for all the lessons that he gave, and he was very famous. And of course there were many, many ulama who were not famous, including he has a brother. They say that he was the hidden version. But Shaykh Rajab al-Dib used to emphasize, when you make dua, you ask Allah anything that enters your mind. Someone is saying, can I make dua to return to my ex-spouse, ex-wife or ex-husband? Of course you can. Who's going to stop you? بأي شيء تخطر على خاطرك. Okay? By anything that comes across your mind. تسأل الله أي شيء يخطر على خاطرك. Anything, okay, that comes across your mind. That's your creator. If you don't ask him, who are you going to ask? And certain things, إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا. He said, Zakariyya, what was his prayer? He made his dua a silent one. ulama said, why is the dua of Zakariyya silent? The dua itself would offend certain people. The dua itself was for an heir, and he had people. He had people in his tribe. He had students. He had students. Now, if I'm like got a cameraman here, and I said, "Hey, everyone, let's make dua that Allah gives us a good cameraman," that offends you, right? And you'd be hurt by that. You'd be severely offended. Okay? You'd be severely offended. So imagine now you have a prophet, and he knows none of his students, none of his nephews, none of the lineage, nobody can carry the load. Nobody can carry the load. They're going to be extremely hurt, because that's just not a fallible person's opinion. That's a prophet's opinion. And the prophet's opinion is a correct opinion, because prophets have fatana. You must believe prophets have the highest level of intellect. Fatana they possess. So that's why Sayyidina Zakariyya nada rabbahu nida'an khafiyya. He called on his Lord a silent prayer. He pray out loud with the gathering with one thing, but this one he had to keep it private, because it's extremely offensive and extremely hurtful to those people. But it's the truth, right? It's the truth. And he asked for someone to inherit him. He was not even asking for a prophet. He was asking for a son that can inherit this work that I'm doing. And Allah Ta'ala gave him more than what he asked. You asked for a good inheritor, Allah gave you a prophet. Right? Made him a Nabi, Sayyidina Yahya alayhi salam. So sometimes the dua that you make may be offensive to somebody, but you're allowed to do it. That's your Lord, your creator. You can ask him what you wish within the boundaries of anyone with common sense, such as asking for haram, asking for the haram to become halal, or asking to ruin somebody, right? Now, you're not responsible for what may indirectly ruin somebody. Oh, Allah, I want to buy this house. Yeah, 10 other guys want to buy that house. If Allah answers you, then 9 guys get rejected. You don't have to worry about that. Because if you did, we wouldn't make dua for anything, right? We wouldn't make dua for, oh, Allah, let me marry her. Okay, the 4 or 5 other guys want to marry her too, right? And that may be a punishment for her to marry you, right? So we don't have to worry about indirect harms. We're just not allowed to ask for direct harm to somebody in our prayers and then in our dua. So if a person, what are the preconditions of your prayer being answered? Is you have to have absolute certainty, not only that Allah hears the dua, that he will answer it. And number 2, you have to have patience. The timing is not yours. What you get is to believe that Allah will answer you. What you don't get is to decide the timing. It's a fair deal. That is a fair deal. Number 3, your precondition is to be absolutely certain or that your food and your wealth is lawful. All right? So the next thing he says is you have to be good to your parents. And if a person excels in salah and studies the meanings of salah and doesn't only do something that we have, which is a very bad habit that a lot of us do, that we recite only a few small, effortless chapters of the Quran in our salah. And that's a problem. That is showing a little bit of disrespect, lack of concern for salah. But then when we pray with people, we review, who are we praying for, right? When we pray with people. However, it's not unlawful to beautify your voice in salah, because there are others. Let's say you're praying in front of 500 people as the imam. It's not unlawful to beautify your voice for that, because there was a time where the Prophet ﷺ prayed came behind a Sahabi, joined his prayer, and that Sahabi said, "O Messenger, I beautified my salah for you." Okay. So that is lawful. But what is discouraged is for a person to not put effort when they're praying alone and only recite the small surahs. That's also discouraged. And it's not, this is not polite. It's not respectful. It's not anything good. The third thing he says is being good to your parents. If you're good at salah, you will be eventually good at everything else. That's the thing. All right. You will be good at everything else afterwards. And birrul walidain, it comes in the form of being good to them in things that you both agree upon. And that's the key. Especially as you grow older, you start having your own opinions. So, see, what do you agree upon? And go there. And it is unlawful to argue back against your parents, to give them a headache, to disobey them in worldly matters. They say clean the kitchen. You say, oh, it's not in the religion for that I have to clean the kitchen. No, yes, you do. Right? It's not fard for me to clean the kitchen at this hour. Yes, it is. If I ask you to, it becomes fard. Right? So it becomes fard to obey them. And then it becomes fard to disobey them if they command you to haram, or they disallow you to do an obligation. All right? So all those matters of the birrul walidain really are summarized in a book by Sheikh Ramin Sur. Can you get the book and also get the YouTube playlist? Why don't you look that up and stick it in the comment section? Birrul walidain. Birrul walidain. It's called, Dutifulness. There's different books. Go to that one. See if that one's Sheikh Ramin Sur's book. Is it? No, it's not Iman. Okay, go back. I mean, that's probably a good book too, but it's called The Rights of Parents. That's what it is. Type in The Rights of Parents by, The Rights of Parents. People should read this book. Sheikh Ramin Sur's book. There it is. That one. That brown one, or that green one, whatever it's called. Yeah, that one. The Rights of Parents. If you are good to your parents, you will have gained so many good qualities that will be useful for you forever after that. Patience. Okay, forbearance. Your elasticity for sabr will be strong. So what happens next? When you get married and have your own kids, you'll be very good to them as well. Okay. When you marry and have your own children, your patience has been stretched. You'll be very patient with your wife, your husband, and your kids, and your in-laws. And that patience is what's going to give you a good life. The result of fasad, what ruins everything, is rushing, having no patience. And what did the Prophet ﷺ say on the Day of Judgment? He saw in the Mi'raj, he saw that a bull bursts out of a small hole. Jibreel explained to him, that's a person who utters a word, and then the bull tries to get back into the hole, but it can't. It's a tiny little hole. He said that is a person who utters a word that is so bad and so huge, but he can never take it back. It came out of your mouth. You can't ever put it back. Money I could steal from somebody. I could go steal from my parents' bank accounts, which I have access to. I still take $2,000. I'll put it back, right? No foul there, right? But words, you can never take them back. So, birrul walidain, being dutiful to your parents, it gives you sabr, makes you have sabr. Also, it lets you mess up. because your parents will forgive you more than anybody else. So by having that between the age of, let's say, 10 and 20, those are the main years that a person spends with their parent. Maybe you can extend it to 24, 25. But those are the main years, right? Where you're a young adult. When you screw up, this is practice because your parents are going to forgive you. So you need that practice. So you realize, shoot, I messed up when I was young there. I'm not going to mess up later. And that's why people who don't have parents, they don't get this chance to screw up and have a parent forgive them. It's one of the values. So if you have somebody, he believes properly, he prays, he's good to his parents, everything else will be easily good for him afterwards. So the next thing he points to in this series of verses, he tells us everything. You don't just live with your parents. We're going from being with my creator to being with my parents. It keeps expanding, you see. I don't just live with my parents. I live with other people. Well, which people should I hang out with? He says here, follow the people who are seeking me. Al-Munib is the person always seeking his creator. Constantly, non-stop. All day and every day, that's all they do. Their dhikr of Allah Ta'ala is in every deed that they do. Every deed they do, they're remembering Allah Ta'ala. That's number, we said, Tawheed, Salah, Birrul Walidain, good suhbah, having good friends. And having mentors outside the house. You want to have a good kid? You cannot be the only mentor as a dad. You need support. And that's why when they say it takes a village to raise a man, because the dad, every kid looks at his dad in a different way. It's love-hate. Why is it a love-hate? Because my dad, of course, every child grows up, he adores his dad. Until the kid does something bad and the dad has to yell at him. And dad gets upset at him. So now his dad deprives him. I want to go out with my friends. No, you can't be. You can't go. You got to stay home and study. I want to go out with my friend. No, you can't go with that person. He's not good. So the kid starts to hate his parents at some point. It's a love-hate because the parent has to stop them from doing things. And the parent who doesn't want to do that is a dumb parent. The parent who wants to be loved and puts that over benefit is not a good parent. So they spoil them. Let them do whatever they want. Let them talk back. Never say it because I don't want to upset them. But you've produced a child who's like a headache for everybody. Everyone will hate this kid. And they are hated. And I see right away, I can tell right away, probably I can guess 50%, maybe 80%. When I interact with a youth, I could tell you what his upbringing was like. When I see like a very respectful youth, there's no doubt about there's a very straight shooting parent in that household. And that, guaranteed, right? Guaranteed. There's a straight shooting dad or mom, probably dad, in this household who will flip out if you show an elder disrespect. No doubt about it, right? You can see it. It's no different if I go to a baseball field, or let's use a sport that the British people know. If I go to a football pitch and I see a guy hitting every corner, right? From the 18, from behind the 18, every shot, he hits the corners. And another guy is toe balling it and it's going off the goal, above the goal, to the side of the goal. Which one was coached? It's a no-brainer, right? So it takes a village to raise a man is a great saying. It's one of those ancient sayings, because you view your dad differently from another perspective. You see them in private. You see your dad in his PJs. You see your dad coughing and sneezing. You see your dad rolling around the couch, the bed, coming in at the end of the day. You don't view him as right, like somebody that I got to listen to every word he's saying. You're almost so saturated with him that there's no sanctity there, right? There's a sanctity of respect, but there's no haiba there. Very few fathers ever maintain a haiba. Your son just knows you as you, right? And that's one of the reasons why if your family testifies that you're a good person, then you go to Jannah. It's because they know who you are. You can fool all the people outside. You can't come fool your parent, your family. They see you. So he no longer views you as like that someone who's every word I got to listen to of wisdom and advice and stuff. He just views you as you. So people need outside sources of affirmation, outside mentors. And where are we going to get that? We Muslims, we get it easily from the masajid. We get it very easily. And we get it, what I said earlier a couple episodes ago, people have to invite one another over for dinner because that's where you see the older brothers, the older siblings. So you may have a family friend where your kid is, let's say, 10, their kid's 14. So he looks up to him. Another kid's like 16. They look up to him. Another kid's 19. They all look up to him. So we're all knowing where we're headed in life. And we all have these elder mentors. So when I see, when you're a kid and you're 10 years old and you see a kid who's 14, you always look like you always look up to that kid. Well, if he's being good, if he's being polite, then it's cool to be polite. It's not uncool, right? But if he starts talking bad to his mom, oh, that's cool, right? If I go to a house and a 10-year-old sees a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old, they're all skipping salah, laughing and joking, making fun of the elders, right? And going to another room and watch and doing all sorts of stuff that's haram, that 10-year-old kid will think that's what's cool, right? And he'll have a mental sort of disorder almost. He'll have a mental, his mind's no longer parallel. He's getting two different sets of values. So that's why the best and easiest way for someone to have a good kid is to get good friends. وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيَّ. So that's what's the next ishara. Remember death. ثُمَّ إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ فَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Not just death. Hisab. The best thing to teach it in a child when they're young, don't worry about me. You're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because me, I disappear. You go into the bathroom, I leave the house. Why would you worry about me then, right? To fear the parent is a very weak form. It's a form, no doubt about that. But it has weaknesses. It's a mode of ta'deeb and tarbiyah, but it has weaknesses. But you're going to meet your creator. Allah is watching you. He says here, the idea that Allah is watching you. يا بني إن إن تكن مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله. You cannot hide anything from your creator. Absolutely nothing. He says here, if there is a mustard seed, a seed, and it's inside of a rock formed around the seed, or it's floating in the sky, or it's deep in the earth, Allah can bring it forth. So you cannot cheat your creator. So the best thing to preach to children, because you as a parent are a preacher, you got to tell them, listen, you can fear me and I'm watching you, but I sleep, I leave, I can't see through walls, I can't see behind me, I'm very limited. If you want to fool me, you can. It's so easy to fool another human being. I go to the bathroom, do what I want. Close the door. No one, even a parent does not open the door on their daughter or son in the bathroom. So you know this whole thing of we don't lock doors. Okay, what if he goes to the bathroom? Most parents, you don't lock doors. You know, there's no such thing as having go in your room and lock the door. Oh, most parents don't like that, right? All right, that's good. But what about the bathroom? You're a guy and you have a 15-year-old girl. She gets upset. She goes into the bathroom. What are you going to do? Open the door on her? Right? So even human beings easy to fool. So you have to teach them, don't worry about me. You can dupe me at any time. You can't fool Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here he said, Allah sees anything. If there is a little speck this big floating in the sky, in the universe somewhere, Allah will find it and bring it down. Right? So, Inna Allah Latif Khabir. Latif. Even the most subtle thing, He knows it. Khabir. He's informed of everything. There's nothing unseen for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unseen is for us. Okay? Unseen is for us. Nothing unseen for Allah. Then, after he gives this is the nasiha. This right here from Sayyidina Luqman is, I was going to say, the Bible of how to raise kids, if we can use that as an idiom, right? Idiomatically. It is all the lessons that are the core foundation of a good kid. He remembers death. You're going to be asked about Allah. And remembering death has another thing too. Not every child is fortunate. It's hurtful to any parent when their kid is so far behind all the other kids in any sphere, in intelligence, in wealth, in looks, in anything. It hurts the parent. And I'm sure it hurts the person itself, obviously. The person themselves. But here Allah Ta'ala says, ثُمَّ إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ. Allah reminds you, you're coming back to me. And all these forms by which you measure each other, every single factor in life, we're all different. Allah Ta'ala has done that so that it's a test, and also so that we can benefit each other. Right? تَخِذَ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا سُخْرِيًّا. Sukhriya here doesn't mean making fun of. It means to use one another. You're really smart. You got into medical school. I'm sick. Right? I'm not that smart, but I could do business and I can deal with people and I can make money in another way. I get sick, you treat me. Okay? So that's how it works. You're a doctor, you're too busy with your kid, send him over to me, I'll teach him the Deen. So there's not a single positive in life except that it has a negative with it too. Right? So we all fill each other's negative space. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, الناس بالناس والكل بالله. People are by people. People help people. People fill in the blanks of other people. And also the limited people are important too. Every single successful operation has a caste. You got 1% genius free thinkers. But those genius free thinkers can't work by themselves. The military, you got one general at the top. There's only one. But how many infantry? He can't operate without all the infantry and then all the people in the middle. So it relieves the bitterness, the tough reality, and the facts that you will never be as good as so-and-so in this factor. It relieves it. Okay, so what? That's the answer of a mu'min. And it's only hayatul dunya. It's almost like getting to an airplane terminal, getting to your gate when you're going on a flight, and at the gate, there's a nice seat with plenty of leg space and looking right out the glass, right out on the tarmac. Then there's another seat that's crammed, and there's 4 people sitting around me, and there's people in front of me, which is always annoying. I don't want to have to look at somebody or have someone looking at me. And it's a terrible seat in the gate, right? And another guy's got a wonderful seat. He's right next to the announcer. You know, the gate person that says when you're boarding. He's right next to the door. He's looking out the window, right? He's got leg space. Nobody's staring at him. And then that guy turns around to you and says, look at you. You got a terrible seat. Like, who cares? We're at the gate. This is nothing. Being at the gate of the airport is literally nothing. Who cares? Right? So likewise, this hayatul dunya is that way. Somebody who is better than you, you're worse than them, they have it and you don't ever have envy or hasra. Hasra is like a despair feeling. I can't tell you how many teenage girls They get this more than anybody else, and that's why they're talked about. The comparison between that they do to each other, they're killing each other. So they feel miserable on the inside. Part of your job as a parent is to remove that. That's more important than food. I'm telling you, it's more important than food. They ask, is this Sunni Islam? Yes, it is. It's 10 times more important than food. Would you rather have no feeling of being less than anybody? Or would you rather have a full stomach? Food is always around, right? But the real achievement is the real benefit and happiness in life is to be able to remove the feeling that I'm less than, they have it, I don't. I wish I had what they had. I just can't get it. It's one of the worst feelings in the world. And Allah Ta'ala cures us. And they cannot be cured without revelation, without prophethood, telling us that this life is just a blink of an eye. Before you know it. And us here, most of us are, let's say, between the age of 10 and 50, right? Because mashallah, we have a lot of children that attend the stream. Before all of us know it, we will have white hairs and grandkids will be pushing you in a wheelchair out of a hospital sometime. Hey, grandfather, how was the medical appointment? That's what's going to happen someday. It's when that happens, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, where did life go? We literally a revolving door, right? Literally a revolving door. We don't teach a teaching like the Buddhists. The Buddhists say have no desires. How do I have no desires when they're built into the actual existence of the human species? Desires is what causes us, the individual, to stay alive by eating, and the species stay alive by mating. Desires is part of life. We don't say that. We say have desires all you want, but don't fuss about this life. You're going to get it in the next life. Best thing, go to janazas. Go to funerals. When you go to here's the funny thing about funerals. Take this advice. You have to go to you have to hit the right number of funerals. If you go to too many, it becomes nothing. Right? Like I know people who work in the funeral business and they're not touched anymore by funerals. Right? It has no impact on them anymore. So you have to actually go to the right amount of funerals. Not too many, not too little. Most of us go to too little. So that was the part of telling them, you're going to meet your Lord and you'll be judged. So on one hand, it's comforting. On the other hand, get to work because we're going to be judged and have some discipline. Right? And you can't keep secrets from Allah. You can keep secrets from creation, from your parents. You can cheat them. You can't cheat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a child, even hovering around 8, 9, 10, 11, gets a drop of Iman that Allah is watching, you have eliminated 70% of the problems. That's it. Just that. Just once that one seed falls in, you water it. You water it with dhikr and reminders. Allah's watching. Right? And if he grows up on that, it becomes like, it's just a fallacy that we're ever alone. You are literally never alone. Right? Even Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan, it's said about him that he used to have such a presence of the divine watching, of Allah watching him, he used to take his ghusl with a lungi on, what we call izar. Now he continues. He goes back to salah. Ya bunayya, renew your iman. Aqim as-salah. Go back to salah. And some people say salah here means the deen, the whole religion. Why? Because of the next verse, the next words after it. Command right, forbid wrong. That means all of this so far was just for you. What about your responsibility to society? You have to say to your son, you need to be a leader. Don't be a follower. Do not be a follower. You got to send to your son and daughter, don't be a follower. Be a leader. Did not Allah say, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Make us for the pious an imam. Make us excel in goodness so that we're leaders in goodness. They didn't say leaders of the tribe. They didn't say leaders in the matter of taqwa, لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. When it comes to deen, you shouldn't want to be a common man and a follower. So Sayyidina Luqman is reminding his son, establish the religion, which is really rooted in the prayer. So he uses the word Salaat to really mean the deen. Command the right and forbid the wrong. And even if you just said it, no, it's Salah only, fine, because the next verse, the next words imply the deen. Command the good, forbid the wrong. In other words, son and daughter, I need you to be part of the da'wah. Okay. Jamie Adams is asking about the wird. Was it removed from the website? Yeah, we have to put them back up because we shifted from Wix to another thing because Wix was a West Bank Israeli operation. So we shifted all of our websites over from Wix, which was really to me the best company. But oh well, we're not using them. We're not using an Israeli company. Simple as that. It's the least we can do, really. Okay. Wasbir ala ma asabak. You're going to suffer. So at some point, we got to tell our kids, you need to be part of the dawah with us. And we're going to suffer blowbacks. Everyone who does any form of dawah at some point or other will suffer a blowback. He continues. This page of Surah Luqman, this is why they study this for all middle school, high schoolers age. They should study this. He says here, وَلَا تُصَعِّرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ. Don't be arrogant. And here he just said, do all these religious things. Don't be arrogant. Which arrogance is he talking about? The worst arrogance of all. Spiritual arrogance. Religious arrogance is a broad category. It's terrible. Within religious arrogance, there's different types. There's religious leaders. There's religious scholars. And there are those who are spiritual. And they have taqwa. And they're close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they worship Allah a lot. So the spiritual is the worst. Okay? They're the worst. But all religious arrogance. وَلَا تُصَعِرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ. After doing all these wonderful religious things, you're a leader, you're doing great in your deen, your arrogance now is the worst form of arrogance. The arrogance of a rich man, he could lose his money. He can be shown that he's ignorant. We can call him a fasiq, right? We can take him down. But who's going to take down the religious person? Right? So that's why the religious arrogance. Secondly, if a rich guy, if I go to, let's say, New York, and the Wall Street guys are arrogant to me, and I go home hating Wall Street. I hate New York. I hate these rich people. That doesn't harm my religion. But if I go to a masjid, and the religious people are arrogant towards me, then I go home hating the masjid, that's far worse. So I've caused that person, the arrogant person has caused his victim to hate masjid. If he says, I'm never going to masjid again. You caused that. With your arrogance, you caused a person to say, I'm never going to the masjid again. So you're one of the worst now. You're a terrible ambassador of the Creator. And that's why religious people have to be very careful. You're ambassadors of the Creator. So how do we be humble? Don't point your face up at people. Don't turn away. Don't ignore people. وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. Don't walk as if you're some kind of saved being. Walking as if you're just boastful about yourself. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ مُخْتَالٍ فَخُورٍ. Allah does not like this arrogant walk. Right? وَلَا تُصَعِرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ مَالَ وَأَعْرَضَ تَكَبُّرًا. He ignores people out of arrogance. They do this in high school all the time. They ignore people out of arrogance. Okay? Or he rolls his eyes and he rolls his neck like that. Okay? Walk humbly. وَقْصِدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ. The humble person, he walks directly to his destination. He doesn't have to put his head up. Okay? Right? He doesn't put his head up. He doesn't see how many people are loving me. He doesn't sit. No, he just walks directly. وَقْصِدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ. Don't speak so loudly. Because there's a type of arrogance in that. When you go to the British subway, the Americans are always the loudest people. Are you not aware that other people don't want to hear your conversation? It's a type of arrogance, right? And don't make also loud laughter and rambunctiousness is not from hayat, and it's not from our deen. When guys get together and they get so loud and rambunctious, this is makruh. Inna ankara al-aswati la sawtul hamir. The most hated noise is the noise of the donkey. That's the question. God creates a thing and he hates it. Why? He declares it's disliked. He created it so he could know what a disliked sound is like. Amazing advice from Sayyidina Luqman al-Hakim. And we'll stop there. Let's take some QA before we wrap up. We got a few minutes. All right. Can we thank Allah for past blessings that no longer exist? Of course. 100%. We wouldn't exist without those blessings. How bad is calling a Muslim a grave worshipper? Oh, here we go with that subject. Istighatha, I already commented on istighatha many times before on how istighatha, when it is shirk. And you would have to ascertain two things, a couple of things. Number one, are they asking out of worship or out of requesting? As requesting, that's the difference. Because you can ask anybody anything. It's not shirk. Asking is different. Asking out of fulfilling a need is different from asking out of worship. So that's number one. Number two, are they asking something that can only be given by Allah Ta'ala? Number three, do they believe, and this is really similar to number one, that the one being asked has absolute power? And then we could also add a fourth one. Is the mustaghath bihi, which is usually a pious person in his grave, is that a valid sabab? Because if somebody were to do the same thing, the asbab, there are valid and invalid asbab, right? Taking asbab can be obligatory, recommended, permitted, discouraged, forbidden. Let's take a look at this just as a totally separate issue. What sabab is obligatory to take? Sabab is a means by which to reach an end. The sabab which is guaranteed and known, and if it's not taken, there could be guaranteed harm. Comes obligatory to take, right? So if I'm dying of thirst and the water is right there and I refuse to drink, I killed myself. So it's an obligation to take. What about recommended? Is if there's a possibility that I'm going to die and it's guaranteed that this is going to give me health, then it becomes recommended. It's not guaranteed I'm going to die, right? Then what's permitted? What's permitted is I'm not going to die. I have a harm that will not hurt me, and there's a benefit, and there's a sabab that likely will benefit me. Like I have a headache, I can take 2 Tylenol. Permitted, right? Imam al-Ghazali has this all in, and we studied this in Tarim actually, this chapter. It's a nice chapter, beautiful chapter on the asbab. And then what's discouraged? A sabab that has a shubha in it. Something with a shubha. Right? Different upon ingredient. Right? And what's forbidden? It's forbidden to take a sabab that in itself is forbidden. Right? So if I have a headache, I can't take something that is forbidden. right? If I'm dying of hunger, I can take something forbidden like khanzir, if there's nothing else, of course, right? So asking the deceased, is that a legitimate sabab, yes or no? It's mukhtalaf fihi. It's differed upon. It's differed upon. Asking an idol, forbidden, of course, right? Because that's what people say. Say, okay, you're asking, not believing the person in the grave is actually giving you anything. They're the means. Okay. Can I do that with an idol? No, you can't, because the one is differed upon. Whether or not they can help you at all, or whether or not we're allowed to ask them for help, that's different upon. But the idol is agreed upon. You can't use it for anything. In fact, you have to throw it in the garbage. You're obligated. You can never use it as a sabab. Right? In any event, this whole issue has been beaten, and it's one of the Twitter issues. And now I'm not really going on Twitter. Is it fine to fast on the supposed day of Mi'raj, or is it bid'ah? You can fast any day of the year except the 2 Eids. But there is nothing specific on the day of Mi'raj to fast. So you may fast and you may not fast. Is it okay to make dua so that family back home to not move into your home despite advising them on the struggles of living in the West? You can make dua that your family finds benefit and avoids harm. That's the best thing to say. What's the ruling on Quran on a rihal being on the floor in your room? In general, the rule of thumb for adab is that in societies that have furnishing, as opposed to the Bedouin, that the Quran should not be lower than the waist. That's the, so we divide people into the hadar and the Badu. The hadar, the people who will have furnishing, we all have stuff, right? Is a sacred book should not be lower than the waist. It's not a ruling. It's just a rule of thumb of adab that Muslims have observed. As for the Bedouin, they don't have furnishings. They don't have chairs. They don't have tables. They can put all their books on the ground, no problem, right? But for us, that's the general rule of thumb. So if you're living in the West and you want to put them, you have a nice little prayer niche, don't put the mushaf on a holder on the ground. No, put it up somewhere. Elevate it somewhere. The holder you can put on the ground. Misbah can put on the ground. But books of Quran and Hadith and religion, you should try to elevate them, especially the Quran and the books of Hadith. Is there any way to overcome qadr of a content or deprived person? First of all, I don't really understand the question, because who knows who's deprived and who's not? Who decides that? No one's forcing us. We should not look at whether or not it's qadr for us. We should just look at what we have in our control. I can control my behavior. I can control what I say, and so I can start saying things that reflect satisfaction, and hopefully that'll enter into my heart after that. I have a pessimistic mindset. I have negative thoughts. All right, so you have to say positive thoughts out loud. That's your solution. Say positive, good things out loud. Say them out loud. Every time you meet them, every time you meet somebody, tell them good things. I'm telling you, some people, you meet them, how are you? Oh, I'm having a terrible day. He doesn't even realize that that's not really a question. Nobody's asking how are you, actually asking how are you. It's just a word we say, right? But even that reflects something bad. So when someone says, how are you? Say everything's great. How's everything going? Wonderful. If you start talking like that, you'll feel better about yourself. Everything will be good. Abdul Qudus on the asbab. Say a parent is missing a kidney. He his remaining kidney is failing, but his kid is available to give his kidney, but he doesn't want to. The parent commands him to. Can the child refuse? The default setting is that the human being the body of the human is not a source of manfa'ah. However, if someone will die, then on the rule of benefit overriding or darura overriding obligations and prohibitions, fatwa has been given for this, that you can take someone else's organ. Now, can you force it is the question. And I think that the answer, Allahu Alam, we need to kick it up to a higher court. I'll ask my shuyukh about that. Can a dad demand a kidney from his son? Subhanallah. Can we make dua for harm against oppressors? Yes. Specifically if they're kuffar. If they're Muslim oppressors, you should simply say, may Allah stop their oppression. For 4 years, says Rakeen Raccoon, I've tried to stay active through swimming, soccer, research, fencing, but I keep failing. I feel lazy, depressed, and stuck in procrastination despite making dua for energy. I struggle with guilt. I want a good life, but I'm wasting my youth. Okay? What can I do? Is it Allah's decree or it's my fault? Well, anything that you have control over, then leave decree out of it and focus only on the control. Of course, you have control over your behavior. There's no doubt about that. And maybe, possibly, Rakeen Raccoon, you're trying to do all this by yourself. I met one time a very successful physician who told me, I mean, this person has done degrees, these after degrees, postdoc, whatever, all this stuff, fellowships, highly decorated physician. And we were just chit-chatting about awrad, and this person said, I can never get myself to say awrad. I'm like, how? When you read Arabic and the wird is about 7 minutes in the morning, it's 5 minutes at night. I can't do it. For 20 years I'm thinking to myself, the reason, how is it that this person is so decorated in the field of medicine but cannot do a 5-minute wird? When you probably studied 5 hours per session, then take a lunch, then another 5 hours just to take your exams. I figured out, I think, what the reason is. That this individual doesn't hang out with Muslims, doesn't have an Islamic environment. So they're trying to do it alone. Whereas in medical school, you walk in at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and there's 1,000 other people in the building. So it's easy to do what your friend group is doing. The whole friend group is doing it, becomes easy to do. Even when you have to study by yourself, at least the next day you're talking about it, right? And when you're studying, you're saying, okay, tomorrow I'm going to talk to my friends about this. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about it. So possibly Rakeen Raccoon's issue is maybe doing things on your own. Whereas if you had a friend group where everyone was doing something, you find it much easier to do. So I guarantee if this person was to have a friend group where devotions like awrad and Quran and ibadah was common in their discussion and they all did it, they would easily do it. No doubt about it. Jamie Adams says, is it permissible to profit and live lavishly through the profits of Umrah and religious tours? Yes, it is. It is. They're doing a service, aren't they? Right? In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the one making Hajj, لِيَشْهَدُوا مَنَافِعَ لَهُمْ. They can go and find benefit there in Mecca, which is what? Selling your goods. You travel from Morocco, back in the old days before the world was like one little global village. You travel to Morocco with your baskets and your leather goods and your tagines, and you get to Mecca, and not only are you making Hajj, you're setting up a stall. Well, how is that guy going to pay his way back? He paid a lot of money to get there. And this is a chance to see Persians. Persians have a lot of money and they don't have Moroccan goods, right? The tajin, that leather goods from Fas, every person in Fas has 10 of them in his home. He's not going to pay much for it. But you take that stuff to Persia, to Mecca, the Persians don't have that stuff. Yemenis don't have that stuff. That's how the world used to be. Iraqis don't have that stuff. Syrians don't have that stuff. This is a chance to buy exotic goods. So even the one making Hajj, Allah has Ta'ala in the Quran has given him the green light to buy and sell. So imagine now someone going and booking the hotel for you and booking the flights for you and having tour guides or guides there to meet you at the airport, to give you al-bayk, to get you the buses. All that, is that not effort? They deserve to be rewarded for that. Do you advise getting married before medical school as a man, especially in the current university environment, if one's parents can cover the costs? Yes, I would. Because a guy in medical school is different from a free floater. A guy in medical school, it's 99% chance he has an income. So a daughter will, another father would say, yeah, my daughter is not marrying a bum who's freeloading off his mom and dad. No, he's marrying somebody who will have, be able to fulfill his obligation. So I would recommend that. What's forever asking for? Person called Forever is asking. A bunch of people deleting. Forever says, I was engaged. Now my engagement is broken. I am not able to get over my former fiance. I constantly fear, what if I won't be able to forget him even after I get married to someone else? You know that that's an emotional matter that's in your heart, and therefore it will be treated by spiritual matters, which is much dhikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you physically have to stop talking about him. You can't even say, I can't stop thinking about him. You can't even say, stop thinking about him. Okay? So that's your instruction. And your recitation of Surah Yasin will help a lot in this. Because Yasin helps people with their affairs. And any kind of dhikrullah that you do, particularly La ilaha illallah, it cuts you off from matters of the dunya. This is what they say about dhikr of La ilaha illallah because of the meaning. Think about the meaning. You're negating. You're negating everything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When in the word, you're negating anything that is worshipped besides Allah, but by extension, other thoughts that you don't want in your mind. And how about this? Why are we trying to do this ourselves? Why don't you wake up in tahajjud and ask Allah to remove him from your heart? Why are you trying to do it yourself, right? So do those things that I mentioned, but go straight to the source of who Allah has said our hearts are in between the two fingers of Ar-Rahman, said the Prophet ﷺ. Our hearts, that means he turns them however he wishes. One day you like someone, one day you hate them. Allah turns your heart, that's it. What's the ruling of interracial marriage in Islam? A man came to Imam Malik and he said, in Persia, an Arab and a Persian got married. And people were upset because they didn't like the mix of the ethnicities. Imam Malik got very upset. And he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. We created you nations and tribes so that you may come to know one another. He said, therefore, all Muslims are kufr to one another. All Muslims, regardless of ethnicity, can marry one another. So he was very upset about that, actually, that they would break off a marriage on ethnic or racial grounds. Who's here? Salam rahmatullah. Man ma'i? Man ant? Cometh. We have a stranger. You know the Arabs, when a stranger used to walk in, he used to say, before you say, what's your name? He said, what's your lineage? we need to know where you're coming from, who you're coming from. But today, nobody knows their lineage. Cometh and sitteth. And you are?
Akil from Canada.
Aqil, ahlan wa sahlan. You were the one you emailed.
Yes.
Welcome to Nothing But Facts. Why did you come at 3:30? What happened to you?
Meetings went way over time.
Oh, you're working. You're here on work.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Wonderful, wonderful. So you are, turn this gentleman's mic on. Aqil from Canada. Which part of Canada?
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
I love those that had still got the Native American names.
Yeah.
And what brings you to Jersey?
Just a work project. They wanted me here for a couple of weeks to consult on a project. So
Oh, good.
yeah.
Good. So what field of consulting are you in?
Innovation.
Bid'ah.
Exactly. So yeah.
You've come to advise us? Bid'ah, how to?
Oh boy.
No, we got nothing to do with bid'ah.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
They could accuse us that all they want, but they're not right.
Yeah. The internal conflict.
Yeah, they're not right.
Yeah. No. Usually, if a big company is trying to figure out what it should do in 20 years' time, that's the kind
What,
of.
did you go to the future and came back, or what?
Yeah, the time machine rates are very cheap in Canada because the exchange rates are quite low. No,
So- So you're on the cutting edge of the industry and know where all the competition's going. Is that what it is?
that's the idea. Yeah, you don't pretend to know where anything
Of course,
is going.
yeah.
You just kind of say, well, it could go this way, but
Yeah.
here's the things that are probably going to happen in 2, 3, 5 years' time.
Crazy. So you got to be up to date on the way no, what field though?
Well, kind of industry agnostic. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Any
yeah.
industry. It's ajib.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So you got to get your pulse on the latest tech, so that you know this job is going to be automated. That's going to be automated. All that stuff.
Also, where it's just not just tech; it's like also where people's preferences are.
That's crazy.
And where politics is headed.
Yeah.
Where the economy is going.
That's crazy. People's preferences are going crazy now in food. Like food, I think it's becoming almost like gluttonous. It's become gluttonous. Like the food industry's got gluttonous. Right? By the way, Canada, do you live where people they travel to see this like 100 stalls of different foods in Canada? You never seen this? All halal. People are traveling to go there just to eat.
Really?
Yeah. There's like 70 or 100 stalls.
What was that?
There's a whole plaza in Toronto.
All halal
Toronto,
food.
yeah.
Richmond Plaza.
Is
Yeah,
this
yeah,
Saskatchewan
yeah.
in Toronto?
No, Saskatchewan is a province. Like New Jersey is a state.
Oh, I thought Saskatchewan is one of the towns in the GTA.
No, I used to live in Toronto, and then we moved back to Saskatchewan, which is the prairies. in
Okay,
Middle of
Saskatchewan's
and where
where-
all the farms are at.
Oh, is that what it is?
Farms in Buffalo,
What's the next biggest city?
Calgary, Edmonton, which
So that's why Saskatchewan, the only time you hear it is when an NHL player goes to the minors. They send it to Saskatchewan.
or as a joke on a movie, like Ryan Reynolds makes fun of Saskatchewan.
That's crazy.
a lot. Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting though. Halal food is.
Oh, it's gone crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry for thank you. For
No problem. We were today doing an extended Q&A session because I don't have classes on Thursdays, right? I take a class on Thursday at 3:30, but I don't have class today, so we're doing extended Q&A because we didn't do a lot of Q&A in the past. 2 days. Flossie saying, can you extend the stream? Unfortunately, there's so many other things we got to do. That Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is our streaming day. When are you coming to Minnesota? I want to come to Minnesota. To console all the Vikings fans, that's number one, but to see all the the snow, to see the snow. I love the snow. A nomad says, is working at Lockheed Martin halal? Well, what are the percentage of Lockheed Martin's products that are being used unlawfully in unlawful wars? It's pretty high. It's pretty high, right? So therefore, there's going to be kalam about that. Right? There's going to be kalam about that. Okay. Muhtashim Shukchai also was very interested by your saying, I'm in the innovation business.
the bid'ah business.
Is there a specific or recommended dua from Quran or Hadith to say against suppressors? Oh, there's many. There's many. Right? Many. Look at what Sayyidina Nuh says. Look at what Sayyidina Musa says. Because they took their enemies down. Look at the greatest of all ones. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel. That means I'm not even saying what I want to be done to you. I'll just leave you to Allah. That's like open-ended. You know, when you get in trouble, in open-ended trouble, you know you're in trouble, right? Really badly. That's one of the worst. The open-ended trouble. Open-ended. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whosoever chooses all of his dunya over Allah and his messenger and striving for their sake, then let him wait. Oof.
What's that?
Just wait.
Just
Not
let him wait.
he'll lose his dunya, right?
Wow.
Right? No, just wait. You can't fathom it. And when you're growing up and your parents get in the car, just wait till we get home. Oh, you know you're in big trouble. Because now like they're thinking of ways to torture you, right? If what you make dua for is gonna happen anyway, right? Then how does halal job or food help? Good question. Because if you get what you get without dua, then it comes to you without blessing, without protection. But if it comes to you with dua, then it comes wrapped, saran wrapped from being exposed to harm with a bow on top. Enjoy it. From Allah, enjoy it. So that's the difference between what we get of this world that comes after dua and that which comes without dua. Without dua, who knows? You come upon, you're given something and it may be a source of harm for you. Maybe a source of good for you. It doesn't come with the same feeling that my Lord is taking care of me. So we're asked to make dua and also let's look at it from the reverse. That's the theology overall. But from my human experience, I don't know the future. My human experience, we use asbab. From my human experience, I want something from my creator and we're interacting. That's the human experience. The theology is one thing, but the everyday human experience is that it's an interaction. And he's asking me in real time, do this, I'll give you this. That's our actual experience, right? And that's 99% of humans don't think twice about the theology so much. But that's not to say we shouldn't. We should. But in day-to-day life, we're interacting with our creator. And we ask and he gives. But when we zoom out, we realize we didn't influence the creator. We do not influence the creator. He was going to give me this anyway. But it's now better when it comes through dua. So those are different perspectives on the matter. Can I make dua for something specific or it has to be general? You may do it for specific. Yes, you may. But it is just better to make it general. Such as, I want to marry this person. It's better to say, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا. Oh Allah, give me a قُرَّةَ عَيْن of a zawj. It's everything that you want is in that word. Right? Everything you want is in that word. Dua with a deadline. If the deadline has been put upon you, then it's lawful. If the deadline is from you, it's not lawful. Oh Allah, answer me by tomorrow. Nah, who are you? But, oh Allah, my debt is due tomorrow. They put it on me. That's lawful. But for you to put the deadline is unlawful.
What about Allah grant me, allow me to get married in the next 6 months?
No, you should say ajil. Allahumma ajil. You can ask for Allah to hurry the matter. Yeah, we're 110% allowed to do that. What's the next trip? Insha'Allah ta'ala, there are two in the works. One is going to be in Ramadan and one is going to be in July. So to give you a heads up, we're working on a trip to Medina in Ramadan and Turkey in July to be part of Darul Fuqahas. And I'll be teaching there in week 3, which is the last week of July. So once we get the information, we'll once we get that information, we'll share it with everybody.
In Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
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 You do
snow?
tabligh?
You like snow?
You guys get snow all the time.
Oh
right?
my God.
9 months a year,
You can
8 months a year.
have it. Yeah, please take it. Take half of it.
These guys are playing hockey on the way to get the mail. Ice skating on the way to get the mail.
That's right.
Here's a question. How do you advise approaching getting a second wife in the times we live in, where getting more than one wife is hard? How do you approach the subject of the second wife? Right? This is how you approach it. Second wife? What's that? Never heard of it. Oh, honey, have you ever heard of that question before? Never heard of that before. Now you'll be a good husband. You'll be a loved husband after that. Whoever says honey anymore. Does anyone say honey anymore?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm crying.
You're married, right? So the married men understand the joke. Is it haram to play music professionally? Yeah, it's lahu al-hadith, and we're not allowed to earn from lahu al-hadith. During Ramadan, can I tell a lie to get off work in order to do ibadah during the day? So, for example, to say, that's a tough one, to be honest with you. But I guess telling a lie is always sinful. I have to say that, right? Like in that regard. So, but why can't you make some tawriyah? For example, I have a doctor's appointment, right? I'm sure there's going to be a doctor in the masjid, right? So when you go, say, hey, could you meet me at the masjid? You're going to be at Aisha anyway, right? Yeah.
It's Ibrahim alayhi salam's his prayer.
Exactly. That's tawriyah, right? So when your boss asks you, did you go to the doctor? Yeah, I did. Right? Maybe tawriyah would be okay for that. But I don't know. I don't want to become known as a community who operates like that with the non-believers, because we see that with the Yahud, right? They got a law for themselves and they got a law for everyone else, and they have no problem tricking everyone else with these contracts and the loopholes and all this stuff. And people hate it. Like I hear people all the time that are supposed to be politically correct who are not, and they despise these loophole rules and this fakeness, right? Here, Jeff Green says, "Say you're sick," and intending I'm sick in the heart. I have spiritual sickness. There's a lot of tawriyah that you could do. Nino Miao says, "How can one respect their mother if she oppresses at every opportunity and spreads lies?" No, you don't have to respect her behavior. You have to respect her rank relative to you. That's a difference. There's a difference between respecting her behavior and respecting her rank vis-a-vis you. Okay? And we all have that. We may really dislike somebody, but he's my elder. I got to respect him for that position. That's it. Okay. Here's a question, says, in the dua series, you said that no dua is impossible. No, we're saying that with the recognition of something called mustahil adatan. The recognition of that. And so it's a general statement, but what does it mean, mustahil adatan? These are two nice, and I'm going to define tawriyah in a second. Tawriyah is when you technically didn't tell a lie, but you know that they misunderstood it, right? I have an appointment with a doctor. We all understand what that means. But technically, I have an appointment to meet, Dr. Khan at Aisha is technically an appointment with a doctor, right? So that's what tawriyah is. In any event, we're saying here that mustahil aqlan is two opposing things. Contradiction. A square triangle is mustahil aqlan, rationally inconceivable. Rationally speaking, it will never occur on the earth, in the universe. There will never be a triangle with 5 sides, because literally you're negating the word triangle. Okay, so that's what we call mustahil aqlan. Mustahil adatan is something that in our day-to-day life do not ever see and will never happen. And the brother mentioned changing ethnicities. So the dua that, let's say I'm Egyptian, may Allah make me Japanese. So that's mustahil adatan. it's not impossible for Allah to say kun fayakun. But in our daily life, that is impossible, right? May Allah grant me $10 million. No, that's not mustahil adatan. A lot of people have $10 million, right? Mustahil adatan. The ada is the way that Allah created the world. Whether Allah created the world is with gravity. You don't change certain things. You can't change, for example, the length of your arms. You can remove the hairs. You can tan it. You could probably put creams on it. But you can get a manicure. But you cannot change the length of your arm. It's mustahil adatan. Don't ask for that. You're making a mockery out of dua. And that's why most of the times that's an exception, doesn't need people to say it, because when do you actually see people doing that, right? So it's very rare to see people do that. So it's mustahil adatan. And that is something that's an exception. We don't ask for dua for those things because it in fact is a mockery of dua. Forever says, what is the dua for a good spouse? Very easy. Look at Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. He said, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khayrin faqir. He got the spouse and all that he needed before getting the spouse, right? Or along with the spouse. So he did not have a home. He did not have a job. He did not have a spouse. Before you can't be homeless and jobless and get a spouse, right? So he said, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khayrin faqir. I am in need of all the good things that you have for me. Okay? And he got everything. He got the job. He got the home because he now lives with the righteous man of in Midian. Some people say it's Prophet Shu'aib. Some people say Sahabi of Prophet Shu'aib. Allah knows best. And he married, he got engaged right then and there, engaged to the daughter of the Prophet Shu'aib. And then the dowry was to work 8 to 10 years. Now some people ask, wow, that's really rough to ask a man for 8 to 10 years. Why wait? Go find someone else who will marry you right away. So the dowry, don't forget, it can be paid after the nikah. So just because the Quran states that you give me 8 years of work on my farm, and if you add 2 years, that's from you, extra bonus if you want to give me 2 more years of work. Okay? That's the dowry. But it doesn't mean he had to work 8 years then get married. That's like almost cruelty. Because they're living on a small farm and he's interacting with her every day. That's like a fitna too, right? So most likely he married her before finishing those, well before finishing the 8 to 10 years. But he still owed the 8 to 10 years. All right, if I'm not mistaken about that. Let me just double check that. Let me just double check that. 8 حجة فأتممت 10 فمن عندك وما أريد أن أشق عليك ستجد إن شاء الله من الصالحين قال ذلك بيني وبينك أين الأجلين قضيت فلا عدوان عليه والله على ما نقول وكيل فلما قضى موسى الأجل وسار بأهله آنس من جانب الطور. So yeah, the Quran doesn't specify whether he married her after or before. So, but it would seem that according to the norms that you owe him 8 to 10 years doesn't mean you're going to have to wait 8 to 10 years to marry. Yeah. So, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khayrin faqir. Again, mahr, it can be given over time. So that means we can agree on a dowry, on a sadaq, on a mahr, all the same meaning, and say 1,000 now and 1,000 for the next 20 years. On January 1st, $1,000. Now, when you don't, on January 1st, if you don't pay the $1,000 by 12:59, by 11:59 p.m., the wife can say, "You didn't give me my dowry, you can't touch me." Of course, no one's going to really do that, but she could. She says, "No, you owe me," right? Or the wali can call up and say, "All right, stay away from my daughter. Now you didn't pay the dowry." So that's what could happen. So you could do that For the next 20 years, every January 1st, I give you $1,000. It's $20,000 mahr. $20,000 mahr. It's a good mahr. But over 20 years, you don't taste it as much, right? You don't taste it as one big shot of 20,000, right? Even one big shot of 15,000 is better than 20,000 over 20 years, no doubt about that. Even 10, right? 10 on the spot, and you invest it properly, is far better than 20,000. What are you, $1,000 every January 1st is gone by February 1st, right? So that's how mahr works. Is there ijma' that mut'ah is haram? 100% ijma'. Yeah, Adam, what's going on? Second wife, now mut'ah. Adam, could you well, I'm worried about Adam Bawamia. When parents live life of sin and have mentally ill child, autistic, is it a punishment from Allah or a test? It's their choice. If the difficult child is a source of them making tawbah, then it's purification. If the difficult child is a source of them getting worse, then it's punishment. If the difficult child is a source for them getting better and better and better in the deen, then he's an elevation of rank. So tribulations, it's your choice. Subhanallah. It's your choice.
So it's
How to react to it. How you react to it.
To Allah is what determines what it is. If
Yeah.
it brings you closer to Allah,
100%.
It's a good thing, and if it takes you further away, it's
Yep.
fasting. That's the criteria.
That's the criterion.
That's awesome.
Yep. It's your choice, which is a great ni'mah. I feel my parents' advice has led to some unnecessary hardships in my livelihood, health, and religion. NA, if you are a man and you do have ability to work on your own, then yes, you can go off, live on your own, and you don't need to listen to every word of the advice they give you if it's bad for you. But if you're a female, you don't need to listen to their advice, but you cannot run away from home and say, I'm going to go live in my own apartment. You should live. No, who knows? Allah knows best. If it's like abuse, that's a different story. Okay. Okay, here's a question. Thank you for this. What is the line where mustahil adatan starts, considering some awliya were given karamat? Good, because karamat, part of the definition of karamat is that it breaks the ada. It does perform the mustahil adatan. Okay? So the answer is that Allah may give it, but it's not something that we ask for. Right? It's not something that we ask for. But Allah may give it. So, for example, when we look at Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he had one of the greatest mu'jizat, which is that he went into the fire and he felt cool and peace. Coolness and peace in the fire. But he didn't ask for that. He said, Allah will take care of my affairs. And Allah created that for him. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he followed Allah's order and he struck the water. He struck it. Some say he struck it like this. Some say he struck it like this. The moment he struck it, it split. He had no knowledge that this would happen. He did not ask for this. He simply said, Inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdeen. My Lord is with me. He'll tell us what to do. He had such yaqeen. Remember, he had an army behind him, the whole army of the Egyptians, and he had the responsibility of his whole tribe. He had a huge tribe. So many. Some say there were 1 million, right? Huge tribe. And his face didn't even change. He has that much yaqeen in Allah. Let's take a look at Sayyidina Musa 40 years earlier. 40 years earlier, oh Musa, what's in your hand? Stick. Throw the stick. He threw the stick. It became a serpent. He ran away from it. So at the beginning of entering the school of messengerhood, the divine school of prophethood, the great prophet Musa alayhi salam ran away from a serpent. And at the end, he faced an army. He didn't even blink. They said to him, Musa, the water's in front of us. You've taken us east, taken us to the water. Take us west. West is lands, right? But how does this make any sense? We're going to escape from the Pharaoh. Allah said, escape east. So they went east, right towards the water. But why don't we escape west? It's all the land there, right? That doesn't make any sense. So defies the logic, right? So, or common sense. So no, Allah said go east. So they went east. All right, so they're yelling at him. Oh Musa, the army's coming. You destroyed us. They're blaming him. Of course, these people had they didn't have the same Iman that our Sahaba had. Who, sami'na wa ata'na, right? The water's here. They're yelling at him, and he's looking straight ahead. He didn't even flinch at them. He had been trained so well. He had experienced it so many times. Allah knows. When he commands something, Allah knows. Allah knows, and you don't know. There are 1 million people from Bani Israel yelling at him, blaming, and you have far more than 1 million soldiers chasing you. SubhanAllah, his people and the whole nation is against him. His nation and his people, the Egyptians and the Bani Israel, didn't flinch because he's a post-grad in the divine school of prophet. Who is the musabbib? Allah is the musabbib. So he said, now strike the sea. And he struck it, and then everyone got to watch. And so what was the point of striking the sea then? If it doesn't really happen, it's so that the Bani Israel and the Egyptians could associate this miracle with Musa. If it just split, it wouldn't be the same. The same results would have been, but the honor of Musa, for him, it was a great honor for him. Allah elevated him because it's not going to open. O sea, do not open until my slave Musa hits you or strikes you with the staff. So he struck the staff like this, and then, subhanallah. What does it mean for humans to establish Jannah in this world before the next? One of the meanings of that is metaphoric, of course, no doubt about that. And that is the idea that we live well in our hearts, in our finances, in our bodies, in our minds, in our families, in our communities. We're living well, free from the major fitan that we see around us. Tribulations that we see around us. All right, good question answer session. One more from Adam Bawami, who's provided us a lot here. Is it permitted to hide sin from future spouse, then reveal after, since it's hard to hide, such as a tattoo? First of all, let's say you did hide that tattoo. Then she discovers it after. So, when I was in the past, I had made a mistake. Okay. If she gets upset, that's not enough. Would not justify for her to break off the marriage. So she comes, let's say, that she could break it off, but it would be a khula. It would be a khula. She needs to compensate you. Yeah. Yeah. Khula. So I'll tell you what would be, for example, you on the wedding night, you informed her that you can't perform properly intimacy. Oh, hold on. No, that's like the biggest part of marriage. Like, khalas, this marriage is over. Yes, she's justified. Okay. However, that's the extreme. Less than that, it may be upsetting. And she may raise question marks on what else is this guy hiding from me, right? And what crowd were you with? So you may find at some point, as you're getting closer, you're not going to say it right away, but as you're getting closer in your relationship, you may disclose that. But it's not something that has to be disclosed right away, because it's a tattoo. It's not something that will affect intimacy, livelihood. It's covered most of the time, possibly, according to him. So, that's the answer to that. All right. Last question on al-mustahil adatan. Some things are very improbable. Improbable is different than mustahil adatan. It's less than that. And you may ask for the improbable. No problem. Okay. All right, in Maliki Madhab, if you put a condition, which is the Sahih opinion, if you were deceived, 1, you can annul only in religion and freedom. 2, you can annul in all deceptions. All right, I'll read up on that. What's the law on tattoo if someone is going on Umrah? Tattoos that have something unlawful in them, then that person should either cover them at all times, but you can't cover it with a bandage in Umrah. Let's say we have to expose our right arm in Tawaf and it's there. If it has something unlawful in it, then you can get it removed. You should get it removed. If it does not have something unlawful and getting it removed would just cause more harm, then you don't have to get it removed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to stop here. We got to pray Asr. Meeting at 4:30, youth class at 5:30, and we have a guest from Saskatchewan, first time in the United States? No, been around.
In East Brunswick.
First time in East Brunswick. We got to show them around where to eat, where to get some food, and then we go for rest of our classes. If you want to join ArcView, you could do that. Go to arcview.org. Class tonight at 7 o'clock. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله